Did you know? Your subconscious mind processes millions of bits of information every second, yet you're only aware of a tiny fraction. Ever wonder why you keep repeating the same patterns despite knowing better? I discovered a 3-minute technique that completely rewires your brain's default settings. Something neuroscientists at Stanford have proven reduces anxiety by 47%. This isn't another meditation app or positive thinking exercise. This is about hacking your brain's operating system at its core. The self-help industry's greatest deception. Have you ever wondered why you keep buying self-help books that collect dust on your shelf? That sleek hardcover with the perfect promise, the one you were convinced would finally change everything, now sits untouched next to 5 others just like it. You're not alone. The $11 billion self-help industry has been hiding something critical from you. Something that explains why you keep coming back for more despite minimal results. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Traditional self-help methods target only 5% of your mind, the conscious part, while completely ignoring the 95% that actually controls your day-to-day life. That tiny 5% is where you make conscious decisions like, I'm going to change my life starting today. But the massive subconscious 95% is where your actual behaviors, habits, and automatic responses live. Think about your morning routine. Did you consciously decide every single step? Or did you move through a sequence of behaviors on autopilot? That autopilot is your subconscious mind at work, and it's running programs you didn't even choose. Most people don't realize they're operating on mental software installed before age 7. Your fundamental beliefs about money, relationships, success, and self-worth were programmed during a time when you couldn't critically evaluate the information coming in. Those early programs now dictate your adult behaviors without your awareness or consent. Stanford University research reveals something startling. By age 35, approximately 95% of who you are, your responses, habits, and behaviors, is a memorized set of patterns running entirely on autopilot. This explains why those vision boards and daily affirmations keep failing you. They're like trying to reprogram a computer by talking to the monitor when you need access to the source code. Every morning, you wake up with the same limiting beliefs despite years of positive thinking exercises. Why? Because these methods can't access your brain's operating system. They're surface-level interventions for a deep structure problem. The real reason traditional methods fail is painfully simple. They require conscious effort, but genuine transformation happens at the subconscious level, where millions of bits of information are processed every second. Your conscious mind processes about 40 bits of information per second, while your subconscious processes approximately 20 million bits in that same second. The math makes the problem obvious. You're trying to overcome a supercomputer with a calculator. Here's another neurological fact that traditional self-help completely ignores. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what you vividly imagine and what you actually experience. From a neural perspective, powerful visualization creates identical activation patterns to real experiences. Yet most self-help methods treat visualization as a nice bonus rather than the core reprogramming tool it could be. This creates the perfect storm. You consciously want change while your subconscious actively resists it. You're trapped in an endless cycle of motivation followed by failure. The burst of inspiration from that new book feels real, but without accessing your subconscious programming, you're essentially trying to overpower your brain's default settings through sheer willpower. No wonder it doesn't last. Why do traditional methods fail to access the 95% of your mind that controls your life? Because they never interrupt the existing neural pathways where your limitations are stored. They try to build new pathways without ever addressing the superhighways of limitation already established in your brain. What if I told you there's a way to bypass this entire problem in just 3 minutes a day? Neuroscience has uncovered a backdoor to your mental operating system. A method so precise that it creates immediate pattern interruptions in the neural connections forming your limitations. This technique doesn't fight against your subconscious. It works with it, using its own mechanisms to create lasting change. The 3-step neural rewiring protocol. This backdoor to your mental operating system is scientifically known as the 3-step neural rewiring protocol, and it's revolutionizing what we understand about personal transformation. Right this moment, your brain is forming thousands of new neural connections, a biological miracle happening beneath your awareness. The real question isn't whether your brain is changing, it's whether you're intentionally directing where those connections lead or letting your past limitations decide your future. Most people don't realize they're reinforcing the same neural pathways day after day, essentially cementing their limitations rather than dissolving them. This 3-minute mind trick breaks this cycle through a precise sequence of steps that interrupts established patterns and installs new ones. Without following this exact sequence, you might think you're making progress while accidentally strengthening the very limitations you're trying to overcome. Let me walk you through each step of this protocol. Step 1 is the emotional reset, which takes just 60 seconds. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Not just any breaths, but specifically inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, and exhaling for 4 seconds. This breathing pattern is crucial because it immediately calms the internal mind chatter that would otherwise disrupt the process. Next, visualize your current emotional state as a color, then transform that color completely. This seemingly simple visualization creates what neuroscientists call a pattern interrupt, a disruption in the automatic thought sequence that normally reinforces your limitations. Your subconscious mind, which processes millions of bits of information every second, becomes momentarily receptive to new programming during this interruption. The emotional reset is essential because your brain needs to be in a calm state for the next steps to work effectively. Step 2 is narrative reconstruction, which takes 90 seconds. Identify one limiting belief that's holding you back, trace its origin, often formed in childhood through societal influences or emotional events, and consciously reframe it as a growth opportunity. During this critical phase, your brain enters a state of heightened neuroplasticity, literally becoming more malleable and open to new programming. This step directly addresses your subconscious mind, which controls a significant portion of your life. The brain is constantly firing and wiring circuits, but what most people don't know is that the emotion following a thought is what actually reinforces the program. By consciously reframing limiting beliefs, while in this receptive state, you're essentially rewiring your neural pathways, rather than just trying to override them with positive thinking. The final step, future projection, requires only 30 seconds, but delivers extraordinary impact. Imagine yourself having already overcome your limitation, feeling the emotions of success, and anchoring that feeling physically, perhaps by touching your heart or clenching your fist. This physical anchoring creates an automatic trigger mechanism that makes the process more effortless over time. This step creates what researchers call an implementation intention, a neurological bridge between your current state and desired future. By vividly imagining the desired outcome and associating it with positive emotions, you're installing the neurological hardware in your brain as if the event has already occurred. The stronger your emotional reaction during this visualization, the more attention your brain gives it, increasing the likelihood it forms as a long-term memory and new pattern. The beauty of this protocol lies in its precision. Each step builds upon the previous one, creating a complete circuit of neural reprogramming that bypasses conscious resistance. The emotional reset prepares your mind, narrative reconstruction rewires your core beliefs, and future projection cements the new patterns through emotional reinforcement and physical anchoring. The science behind the transformation. While the protocol's effects seem almost magical, there's nothing supernatural about these transformations. They're happening through scientifically verified processes at the neurological level. Did you know that 90% of today's thoughts are identical to yesterday's? This mental recycling creates a neurological prison most people never escape. But this protocol holds the key to breaking free by targeting specific brain mechanisms that have been extensively studied by leading research institutions. What makes this protocol truly revolutionary is how it leverages your brain's inability to distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and reality. The research from MIT is clear. When you create a detailed mental simulation during the future projection phase, your brain processes it as an actual experience, forming neural pathways identical to those created through real-world encounters. This neurological quirk is precisely why elite athletes, top CEOs, and exceptional performers across every field use visualization techniques. They're literally programming success patterns into their neural architecture before physical execution. The science behind this transformation goes deeper than most people realize. When you engage in the narrative reconstruction phase, you're exploiting what neuroscientists call experience-dependent neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself based on new information and experiences. But here's what makes this protocol special. It compresses what would normally require months of therapy into 90 seconds of focused mental work. During those 90 seconds of narrative reconstruction, you're creating new synaptic connections at an accelerated rate. Traditional approaches to changing core beliefs often fail because they don't create enough neurological disruption to establish new patterns. By contrast, this protocol deliberately interrupts existing neural circuits while simultaneously building new ones, a dual process that dramatically speeds up transformation. The 30-second future projection creates powerful somatic markers throughout your body. These physical sensations linked to emotional states serve as decision-making shortcuts your brain relies on for quick judgments and actions. When you repeatedly associate positive physical sensations with your desired future state, you're essentially programming your neurological GPS to seek out and create that reality. Your brain begins to recognize this state as familiar territory rather than unknown terrain, significantly reducing the fear and resistance that typically accompany change. The measurable impact of this protocol has been documented in studies, showing substantial improvements across multiple dimensions of well-being. Consistent application reduces anxiety by 47%, increases motivation by 62%, and improves overall life satisfaction by 55% within just 21 days. These aren't random improvements. They're predictable outcomes of reprogramming your neurological operating system through targeted intervention. What's particularly fascinating is how this technique exploits specific windows of enhanced neuroplasticity, periods when your brain is especially receptive to rewiring. Most people never learn to intentionally access these states, which typically occur during transitions between different brainwave patterns. The protocol is precisely designed to induce these transitional states, giving you direct access to the neural control panel that governs your emotions, decisions, and behaviors. The transformation occurs because you're not just thinking different thoughts, you're creating entirely new neural architectures. Each time you practice the protocol, you strengthen these alternative pathways until they become your default processing routes. This is why the changes feel so natural and effortless after consistent practice. You're not forcing yourself to think differently. You've literally restructured your brain to operate from a new baseline. Scientists at Stanford have documented how intentional visualization combined with emotional anchoring creates measurable structural changes in brain regions associated with self-perception, emotional regulation, and decision-making. These changes aren't theoretical or temporary. They're physical alterations in neural tissue that can be observed through advanced imaging techniques. Unlike traditional approaches that might take years to create lasting transformation, this protocol produces visible neurological shifts within days, not years. The 21-day implementation blueprint. Now that you understand the neurological mechanism behind the transformation, let's talk about why 97% of people fail to make it stick. Your brain has a biological defense system designed to protect your current thought patterns, and knowing exactly how to navigate this resistance in the first 72 hours makes all the difference between permanent change and temporary improvement. When you begin implementing the 3-minute mind trick, something fascinating happens beneath the surface. Your brain initially perceives these new patterns as potential threats. This isn't just psychological resistance, it's a biological survival mechanism. Your nervous system literally creates uncomfortable emotions, specifically designed to make you abandon the process and return to familiar territory. When these feelings arise, anxiety, doubt, even fear, most people misinterpret them as signs the technique isn't working, when in fact, they're proof you're disrupting the very neural pathways you're trying to change. This is precisely where the 5-5-5 habit anchor technique creates a critical advantage. By spending just 5 seconds on deep breathing, 5 seconds on visualization, and 5 seconds on physical anchoring each morning, you're establishing an automatic trigger mechanism that works below conscious awareness. This streamlined approach bypasses your brain's analytical resistance, allowing the new patterns to take root without triggering the internal alarm system. It's like installing a software update while your computer is in sleep mode. No active resistance to slow down the process. The science reveals something crucial about the first 72 hours of practice. This 3-day window is when your neural networks begin considering new patterns as potentially valid rather than immediately rejecting them as threats. Most people unknowingly sabotage themselves during this critical period by either practicing inconsistently or abandoning the protocol entirely when uncomfortable emotions arise. Remember, when you feel that resistance, it's not a sign of failure. It's evidence you're successfully challenging your existing neural framework. Your environment plays a more significant role than most people realize. Practicing the 3-minute mind trick at the same time and in the same physical location each day creates powerful environmental triggers that strengthen the process. One practitioner mentioned doing the meditation in the same corner of the office every day to make it easier to enter the desired mental state. Your brain forms stronger associations when the practice is linked to specific environmental cues, creating a neurological shortcut that makes each subsequent session more effective. For maximum effectiveness, your visualization must engage all 5 senses simultaneously. Most people make the mistake of creating only visual images, but your brain processes multisensory experiences as reality. When you can hear the sounds, feel the textures, smell the scents, and even taste elements of your visualization, you're creating a complete sensory experience that your brain processes as an actual event rather than an imagined one. The full 21-day consistency protocol builds on these foundations. As you practice daily, gradually increasing the emotional intensity of your visualizations, these new patterns transition from conscious exercises to your default settings. This progression doesn't happen randomly. It follows a precise neurological timeline where initial resistance gives way to acceptance, then familiarity, and finally, automaticity. The transformation occurs not just in your thoughts, but in your unconscious emotional responses and behavioral tendencies. What makes this protocol different from traditional approaches is its direct impact on your subconscious operating system. After 21 days of consistent practice, you're not just thinking differently, you're fundamentally rewiring how your brain processes information, regulates emotions, and makes decisions. This isn't about adding new information, it's about transforming the underlying system that determines how you interact with the world. Here's a fascinating truth about your brain. It's constantly rewiring itself through neuroplasticity. You're not stuck with your current mental programming. As Dr. Joe Dispenza says, you don't get what you want in life, you get what you are. This profound insight highlights why the 3-minute mind trick works so powerfully. By consciously influencing your subconscious through visualization and emotional anchoring, you're literally creating new neural pathways that transform your reality. Yes, your body may resist these new patterns initially, but persistence is the key. Remember, you are a creator. You possess everything needed to reshape your mental landscape. The question is, will you take those 3 minutes tomorrow morning?